This is all garbage. And everybody knows it. And if you murder more American troops on behalf of your corporate donors, there's going to be political hell to pay. And I guarantee it.
The question remains, are we going to war with Venezuela? Well, Trump's war hawks are all assembling as we speak to plan their next move. According to CNN, Trump is going to hold a meeting in the Oval Office. The guest list includes Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff General Dan Kane, and Secretary of State Marco Rubio are expected to attend, as well as White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles and Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller. Trump has already attacked very small boats while deploying very large boats. Here is a graphic representation of the U.S. military presence. 15,000 troops have been sent to the area along with a major aircraft carrier and over a dozen ships in total. The Pentagon is calling it Operation Southern Spear. Trump also admitted to allowing the CIA to operate in Venezuela. The New York Times reported a few days ago that Trump had spoken directly with Venezuelan President Maduro. When asked about the call, here's Trump's response.
The New York Times inquired on the involvement with Maduro. Did you?
I want to comment on it, the answer is yes.
And can you tell us a little bit
No, I
about
can't do that.
What did you say? Did you say it went well?
I would say it went well or badly. I think it went well.
Now, some information about the call has been leaked. According to the Miami Herald, Trump issued a, quote, blunt warning. The U.S. message to Maduro was direct. Safe passage would be guaranteed for him, his wife, and his son only if he agrees to resign right away. Maduro reportedly refused Trump's request, and that's the last time the two spoke, though Maduro allegedly wanted to continue the conversation. After Trump's announcement on Saturday that Venezuelan airspace should be considered closed in its entirety, the Maduro government attempted to place another call to Washington but received no response. Trump has also warned that he would be stopping trafficking by land as well as by sea very soon. And again, another reminder with all of these conversations, Venezuela is not a major player in the global drug trade. Their neighbor, Colombia, is, but not Venezuela. Cenk, the question is for you, are we going to war?
So yeah, the question is Trump bluffing or not? So if he's bluffing and he pulls up all these warships and he does the angry call and says you got only a short time to live, you better turn yourself in and we'll give you safe passage for your wife and your kids, etc. And if it works and he leaves and then ExxonMobil's CEO becomes the new president of Venezuela, I guess all is well, a coup well done. I'm not in that camp. I don't want that. I think it's ridiculous that we meddle in other people's affairs and not for the benefit of America, but for the benefit of corporate donors who would like that oil, etc. But that's where the damage is limited. What if Maduro calls his bluff? And by the way, he's in the middle of calling his bluff because he said, according to reports, and again, we don't know if this is exactly right or not, but apparently what Maduro asked for was no safe passage for many others that are connected to the administration, like the blanket amnesty for anyone that was involved in his government, and maybe even not political control, but control over the Venezuelan troops. Because that second part's a joke. If you're in charge of the Venezuelan troops, you're in charge of Venezuela, right? So that's never going to be given. But the blanket amnesty, I don't know about. But he doesn't seem like he's saying, oh, okay, Daddy Trump, I'm so scared. Here, I'll run away, right? So if he doesn't run away and Trump's bluff gets called, if it was a bluff, then what does he do? Well, right now, there's a lot of senators asking, including Republican senators, hey, what are we doing? We never declared war on Venezuela. And hey, wait a minute, why are we going to war with rando Venezuela? Because of drugs? Okay, I mean, I don't want this to happen under any circumstance, but Mexico and Colombia are 10, 20, 200 times the issue with drugs. China with producing some of the parts for fentanyl is an issue. Afghanistan is a huge issue. Are we going back into Afghanistan? All those countries are a much bigger problem in the drug trade than Venezuela is. On the other hand, Venezuela has the largest oil reserve in the world. I'm sure a coinkydink. By the way, barely mentioned in mainstream media. Like, oh yeah, oh, by the way, paragraph 15, largest oil reserve in the world. And according to reports, here comes more of a mystery. Maduro has already said, oh, you can take our oil, just don't kill me, right?
Yeah, so, they want that oil, man. That's what it's about. Warmongers, man. Revelation 6:4. And there went out another horse that was red, and power was given to him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth, and that they should kill one another, and there was given unto him a great sword. All right, Shalom. I want to give all the praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai Bahasham Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who taught me this truth, and Shalom to the hopeful elect. This article is from the WallStreetJournal.com. The headline reads, it says, "Make money, not war. Trump's real plan for peace in Ukraine." Okay, so I have this article summarized here on the left. It's a pretty long article, and for the sake of time, we'll just deal with the summary here. All right, but again, when you hear those talks of peace, you know what's coming after that. All right, so summary of U.S.-Russia Make Money Not War peace plan. It says the selected article details private business-focused negotiations involving U.S. businessmen close to President Trump and a high-ranking Russian official aimed at ending the war in Ukraine by offering significant commercial incentives to the U.S. and Russia, often bypassing traditional diplomatic channels and excluding European allies, right? Jumping down here, key figures in talks. Participants: Steve Witkoff, billionaire developer and Trump special envoy. Jared Kushner, all right, who's a tiny top, by the way. President Trump's son-in-law. And Kirill Dmitriev, head of Russian sovereign wealth fund and Putin's negotiator, all right? Jumping down, it says approach the talks were rooted in President Trump's and the talks were rooted in President Trump's and the businessman's philosophy that economic opportunity and business partnerships matter more than borders, viewing it as an quote easy fix to geopolitical challenges. All right, the point here, which I wanted to get to. All right, proposed economic incentives for peace. The plan, largely shaped by Dmitry, proposed significant commercial opportunities for U.S. businesses in Russia. Frozen assets tapping the roughly $300 billion of Russian central bank assets frozen in Europe for U.S.-Russian investment projects and U.S.-led reconstruction of Ukraine. Arctic resources. U.S. and Russian companies could cooperate to exploit the vast mineral wealth in the Arctic. Rare earth and energy deals. Russia dangled multi-billion-dollar rare earth mining and energy deals, including reviving the Nord Stream pipeline. Space cooperation. Joint U.S.-Russia space missions, including a potential mission to Mars with Elon Musk's SpaceX. Goal: to bring Russia's $2 trillion economy in from the cold and position American businesses. Let me read that again. It says to bring Russia's $2 trillion economy in from the cold and position American businesses ahead of European competitors. Russia reportedly prefers U.S. businesses over those from, quote, trash-talking European states. Now, see, all of this, it sounds good, but we know that, according to prophecy, no peace is coming, okay? This is Isaiah 13:17. Behold, I will stir up the Medes against them. The Medes represent Russia. Them is going into Babylon, okay, America. Behold, I will stir up the Medes against them, which shall not regard silver and as for gold, they should not delight in it, right? So as we were reading this article here, I had it pulled up in the chat, that Isaiah 13:17, and it's spot on to what's going on, what's being talked about in this article here, right? So again, Isaiah 13:17 breakdown. Behold, I will stir up the Medes against them, which should not regard silver, and as for gold, they should not delight in it. It says, who are the Medes? In a historical layer, the Medes were the people of Media, north and east of Babylon. In a prophetic layer, Isaiah is speaking about Yahweh raising a northern army as a tool for judgment. All right, the northern army now is Russia. Okay, Yahweh Shemel Shai is using the Russians as a tool of judgment. All right, and that's why I wanted to tie in what was written in Revelation chapter 20 and verse 8, where it talks about pretty much that, this old devil, the serpent, okay, pretty much this Western hegemony going to war with Gog and Magog in that final battle, all right, which you'll get that in a little bit, all right, because we're moving very close to the fulfillment of that prophecy, right? It says, but Isaiah 13 is more than history. It is the day of the Lord in time and Babylon's system prophecy, all right? So this prophecy that we're reading in Isaiah 13:17 is talking about now, okay? What's getting ready to happen in these times. Number 2, I will stir up the Medes. It says Yahweh is the one orchestrating the attack. It says stir up equal to rouse, awaken, or incite. This means it's divine judgment, not random geopolitics. The attacking nation is empowered by Yahweh Shemel Shai, right? That's was that Proverbs 21:1. Everything is by the will of the Lord, right? Proverbs 21:1, it says the king's heart is in the hand of Yahweh Shemel Shai, meaning the king's mind is in the hand of the Lord. As the rivers of water, he turneth it whithersoever he will. So again, the point is the Lord is the one that's orchestrating, the gathering of the nations. He's inciting the war that's happening. Okay, everything that's going on the earth is under the control of the Most High. All right. So reading on, it says, in the historical layer, the Medes joined with the Persians to overthrow ancient Babylon 539 BC. It says in the prophetic layer, the Medes can represent a northern coalition Yahweh raises in the last days. Who is that? The Russians. Used to judge Mystery Babylon. Who's Mystery Babylon? America. Similar to Jeremiah 50:51 and Isaiah 13:14. See? 3, which shall not regard silver nor delight in gold. What does this mean? This is the key phrase. It means the invaders, cannot be bribed. You can't buy them off. Wealth will not stop judgment. As we were reading here, as we were reading the points going into the proposed economic incentives for peace, right? It said what? You can't buy them off. Wealth will not stop the judgment. So no matter what these people are doing, these businessmen, all right, no amount of money, incentives, or whatever is going to stop this war from coming. All right, there is no peace. B, their purpose is destruction, not gain. They're not coming to negotiate, trade, or plunder. They're coming to destroy Babylon. See? So this cancels out. All right, this prophecy cancels out all this stuff that was being said in this article here, man. Okay? Make money, not war. Trump's real plan for peace in Ukraine. It's not going to happen. Okay? Because as we speak, things are intensifying between Russia and Europe as well. And we'll get that in a minute. Right? So let's read some more. It says, see, this shows the severity of judgment. They are not motivated by wealth, political alliances, diplomacy, economic deals. They are driven with divine wrath. See? The Lord is in control. Okay? So again, when you hear about the peace talks and, them coming to an agreement on this and that, it's not going to happen, man. Okay? You cannot, again, as I always say, you can't offset prophecy, right? D, this aligns with the next verses, Isaiah 13 and 18, 19, and 20 through 22. They slaughter without pity. Babylon becomes Sodom and Gomorrah. Permanent desolation. This is a total irreversible judgment, not a normal war. All right? And I'll read this last part and we'll go on. Number 4, how does this fit with end time Babylon prophecy? The Medes in prophetic typology represent a nation or coalition from the north, raised specifically to destroy the end time Babylon power. And who was that? America. Motivated by Yahweh Shem Yahushai, not money. Right? And then the list of precepts, so on and so forth. Right? So anyway, let's move on. So we get the point there. Right? No peace is in the air. Okay? As I was talking about. This is from the AP News. Putin accuses Europeans of sabotaging peace efforts on Ukraine and meets U.S. delegation. All right. So again, as we're reading here, according to the will of the Lord, according to prophecy, no peace is in sight. Ezekiel 7 and 25, destruction cometh, and they shall seek peace, and there shall be none. Okay, no peace unto the wicked. 1 Thessalonians 5 and 3, for when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them, as travail upon a woman with child, and they should not escape. Okay, so as we see it, right, destruction is on the horizon. Destruction is coming, man, and it's not going to stop, right? It says, but ye brethren are not in darkness, that day shall overtake you as a thief, right? Because we understand what's going on. Okay? We're operating with the light. Okay? Through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Yahushai, through this wisdom. You are the children of light and the children of the day. We are not of the night, nor of darkness. Therefore, let us not sleep as do others, but let us watch and be sober. And this is exactly what we're doing. All right? We're watching everything that's playing out across the planet Earth and tying it back to Bible prophecy. All right. So the point again is that we're very close to this war between America and Russia, man. The war of Armageddon. Right. So again, Putin accuses Europeans of sabotaging peace efforts on Ukraine and meets U.S. delegation. Right. Check this out. This came out 5 hours ago. Okay. Putin tells Europe we're ready for war. Destroys EU leaders for sabotaging Trump's peace plan.
I've said that 100 times. We have no plans of fighting against Europe. But if Europe wants to fight and they start this fight, then we are ready right now. There is no doubt about this. But the only question is, if Europe starts the war, unleashes this war, because that's not Ukraine. With Ukraine, thirdly, they have no peace agenda. They are warmongers. Even when they are trying, allegedly, to introduce some changes, some adjustments to the President Trump's proposal, all these changes have only one goal in mind. They are aimed at blocking and putting to a halt this peace process. They are trying to make demands that are unacceptable for Russia, and they understand this, and then later they would try to blame Russia, accuse Russia of stopping this peace process. This is their objectives, and we can clearly see that. That's why, well, if they want to go back to the reality, considering the reality on the ground, then they are welcome.
Yeah, like you were saying, hey, Putin is telling the world that they're ready for war, right? Jeremiah 51. 28. Jeremiah 51 and 28 says, prepare against her, who is her? Babylon. Prepare against her the nations with the kings of the Medes, okay? The Russians, and the captains thereof, and all the rulers thereof, and all the land of his dominion. And the land shall tremble in sorrow, for every purpose of the Lord, Yahweh Shem Yahushai, shall be performed against Babylon. So again, everything is through the purpose of the Most High. This is the Lord's war. For every purpose of the Lord, Yahweh Shem Yahushai, shall be performed against Babylon, to make the land of Babylon a desolation, excuse me, to make the land of Babylon a desolation without inhabitant. Okay? This is what we're vastly approaching here, man. The complete destruction of Babylon the Great, which is America. Right?
We are not against this. I've said that 100 times. We have no plans of fighting against Europe. But if Europe wants to fight and they start this fight, then we are ready right now. There is no doubt about this. But the only question is, if Europe starts the war, unleashes this war, because that's not Ukraine. With Ukraine, we use some surgical means. We are trying to be really careful. Because you understand why. This is not a war in the direct sense of the word. And Europe, all of a sudden, wants to start a war. And if it does start a war, then very rapidly there might be a situation where we have no one to negotiate with. For several weeks now, Kupiansk is in our hands completely, in its entirety. I believe the leadership of Ukraine are currently busy with some other matters. They don't care that much about what's happening on the battlefields. It seems they live on some other planet. And when you travel so much begging for money, probably it's difficult to follow the recent developments in the economy or the front lines. As for this is piracy, nothing else. Before that, the Ukrainian armed forces tried to attack our seaports. We reciprocated. I would like to emphasize this. We reciprocated with similar strikes. And I assure you, these strikes were much more powerful, much stronger. And first of all, they were launched against the vessels, against the ships that were used to supply military equipment and ammunition to Ukraine, and we hit precisely where we intended to. And you can see it from the explosions that were caused by the strikes, secondary explosions, secondary detonation. And what's the Ukrainian armed forces doing now? That's piracy. What kind of response could be? We can enhance our strikes against the port infrastructure and against the vessels that are entering Ukrainian ports. That's one. Secondly, if this goes on, then we will look into the possibility, I'm not saying that we will do this, but we will consider it to perform some actions against the vessels of those countries that are helping Ukraine with performing these piracy actions. So we might cut Ukraine off the sea to stop them from being involved with these piracy tactics.
Yeah. So here you go. It's going down like it tells us in Isaiah 13, the Lord mustereth the host of battle. So you have America, getting ready to pretty much invade Venezuela, which Venezuela is allies with Russia and China. All right. So as they showed in that first video, right, they showed the warships that are that are lining up over here in the West. All right, how both China and Russia have their they have their troops, they have their warships over here on this side of the world. All right, which is causing that agitation. All right, so it's getting really heavy right now, man. So again, the point that I want to make is that prophecy in Revelation 20 Let's get that. All right, the war with Gog and Magog is getting ready to come to pass soon, man. All right. This is Revelation 20. And let's read to it. All right. So this is, I'll read Revelation 21 through 3, and then we'll jump to 7 to 8, which is the point. Okay. So this is Revelation 20 and 1. It says, and I saw an angel come down from heaven. That angel is Yahweh Shai. It says, and I saw an angel come down from heaven, having the key of the bottomless pit. All right. The bottomless pit represents Europe and its lack of natural resources. Having the key of the bottomless pit and a great chain in his hand, which represented slavery. All right. Because Esau was bound, 1,000 years, which was known as the Dark Ages, where Jake was ruling Europe. Right. Verse 2, and he laid hold on the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil, all right, going into the Western pagan Roman Empire, which fell. And it says, and bound him, let me read it again. It says, and he laid hold on the dragon, the old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years. So again, Esau was enslaved under the Israelites for 1,000 years, which is known as the Dark Ages, all right, when Jake was ruling Europe for that 1,000 years. Verse 3, and cast him into the bottomless pit, right, and shut him up and set a seal upon him, all right, going into the fact that Esau, the influence of the pagan Roman Empire was bound up. It was done at that time. It says, and put a seal upon him that he should deceive the nations no more till the 1,000 years should be fulfilled, right, which that goes into the time of the Renaissance, when Esau got back in power, the Renaissance period. Till the 1,000 years should be fulfilled, and after that he must be loose for a little season. So we're in the midst of that little season of this devil being loose now. Okay, but we're in that time where this little season is almost over with. All right, which is the point here in verse 7 and 8. All right, Satan freed, doomed. Okay, Revelation 20 and 7. And when those 1,000 years are expired, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison. Again, going back to the Renaissance period. Okay, it says, verse 8, the point, and shall go out to deceive the nations which are in the four quarters of the earth, which he did that. Okay, Esau is responsible, okay, for deceiving the nations. Babylon, through his wines and philosophies, idolatry, okay, the sorcery, witchcraft, all the stuff that it pushed, all the philosophies of wickedness that this place has pushed, contrary to the Most High. Okay, so it says, and shall go out to deceive the nations which are in the four quarters of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them together to battle, the number of whom is as the sand of the sea. See that? So we're in that time. We're approaching that battle between Gog, Magog, and the Western hegemony. All right, as we were just watching here. Okay, so Russia is preparing to go to war with Europe and America, man. Okay, the Western power structure, man, is going to be taken down by Russia. Okay, Russia is being used, as we read earlier. Okay, what is talked about, the people from the north. Okay, right here. It said, in the historical layer, the Medes were people of Media, north and east of Babylon. And in the prophetic layer, Isaiah is speaking about Yahweh Shem Shai raising a northern army as a tool of judgment. That's Russia. Okay, the Medes, Gog, Magog. But Isaiah 13 is more than history. It is the day of the Lord, end time, and Babylon system prophecy, man. Okay, so ChatGPT was on point. Okay, this place is about to fall. Okay, the writing's on the wall here, man. So just wanted to put that out there. That's what I was thinking about, as far as like, how we're coming into that time of that prophecy being fulfilled. You see, so it's almost said and done. Shalom.